Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the always online multiplayer gaming podcast brought to you by mmorpg, your home for all things multiplayer related. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, aka Magicman, as always, and we're doing the show live. It's Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, twitch.tv/mmobomb. We've got chat standing by to chime in on all the topics we're about to discuss today on 483, episode 483, closing in on the big 500. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on iTunes, Spotify, or any of those podcast platforms, thank you so much. While you're there, give it a thumbs up, a like, a subscribe, turn on the notifications, all the usual stuff. But most importantly, if you like what we do here, check out all the other First Look videos. We've got 2 different giveaways we've just put up on MMOBomb in the last 2 days. Visit the site, rate your games. That's the one that pays the bills. We appreciate it. Joining me to go over all the fun stuff today, Ms. Quinlan Bowers. What's up, Q?
Not a lot. It's been a week since Good Omens 2 came out. I'm now existing on Copium and Theory Crafting.
Yeah. So I had never watched. I mean, obviously, big David Tennant fan and Michael Sheen, big fan of both in other works, but had never watched. And finally, Torchwick broke me down about 4 days ago and was like, "Come on, just watch the first 2 episodes." I have since watched all of season 1 and season 2. I'm all caught up as well with Good Omens. And definitely a fan. I mean, it's got to get a season 3. We just got to wait the strike thing out, right?
Well, so Neil said that the studio is in Bathgate in Scotland, and it's still there. Everything is still, the set is still there, but the BBC's paying for that, and it's up to Amazon whether or not they renew it. Amazon did just announce the renewal of a different show, but that was already, I guess, planned before the strike stuff. So
we'll see.
It's really the strike, but it will still be like 2026 probably before we see it, because it takes 18 months to film and God knows how long to do the post.
Yeah, I probably, it wasn't probably the emergency I made it out to be when I binged season 2 in full yesterday. After the Relic grind.
Well,
I probably had a little time.
Yeah, unless you're like me, where it's like, well, I'm on everybody I talk to on social media.
There you go.
And the official don't talk about this anymore declaration from Amazon Prime and shit is pretty much over. So now people are just going ham.
Tori the chicken in chat says, feels like it's been a while since the intro failed. Kind of missed it. Yeah, it has been a while. It's almost like we figured this crap out finally. Also on the line, joining us, Mr. Dom Greco. What's up, friendo?
How you doing?
Good. Your camera's looking sharp. You got the new digs.
Yeah.
Figured I'd ask you to be on the show since there's no Gaming Gumbo tomorrow because a bunch of you jokers are at Gen Con. And it would just be Yod and I, basically, and I'm not a big fan of 2-person shows. And then next week, no Gaming Gumbo, because I'll be at my last chance to qualify for Nats for Final Fantasy TCG. But then Gaming Gumbo will be back on, so figured we have you here today. But you have started the
podcast.
Yeah, you have started the office move, it seems.
Yeah, I've finally got a little settled in here. I actually streamed a couple at the beginning of the week. The new Five Nights at Freddy DLC came out, and I was like, it's kind of the same situation with social media, and that game, for being a single player game, has the most community. It's insane because it's like a collective online community of trying to fit pieces together that I've seen in any kind of single player game. It's the most community driven single player game I've ever seen. Yeah, I just didn't want spoilers, so I had to get that out of the way. The very first night that came out.
Saying he's just not interesting enough to be on a 2-person show. No, that's not it at all. I don't like 2-person shows. I mean, I've done them in the past when I had to for hey, Q's power went out 5 minutes before the show. Well, we're still going to do a show,
Yeah.
But if I can avoid them, I try to, because I hate, and I don't like this when I watch other podcasts, and maybe it's just me too. When you have 2 people, if they both agree on something, the discussion kind of gets very boring, where when you have 3 people, they may all agree on something, but they have different takes on it usually. And the opportunity for everybody to agree is lessened by 3 people being there. So it's just my own personal preference. It's not a quality thing. Let's head over and get started with the news. So this week, this past weekend, actually, 5 days ago and a little beyond, basically only 2 games existed. From about Friday afternoon through Sunday afternoon, basically only 2 games existed because most gaming companies were smart and said, nah, we ain't pushing news from Friday onwards at this point. We had both Final Fantasy XIV's FanFest, North American FanFest, in 115-degree Las Vegas heat with some lines outside, and we went into depth on that on Ready Check Radio's podcast last night on the whole FanFest itself. We're going to keep it content-related here today. And then we also had ExileCon on the Path of Exile, Path of Exile 2 side. So let's kind of start there with Final Fantasy XIV. Q. We had the keynote on Friday. Was it Friday? Yeah, we had a keynote on Friday, and then we had the live letter itself a little later, and of course, a bunch of extra concerts and stuff for everybody being there. And we did get what we thought we would get, and what we were talking about during our show last week, since it was happening at the same time as our cast. DawnTrail is the name of the expansion. We got a new trailer. We know that we're getting 2 jobs, one ranged magic DPS and one melee DPS. And we know a slew of other details. What'd you think about the keynote?
I mean, the trailer in and of itself is like really pretty and stuff. And, they go into the whole thing about how the Scions are going to be kind of against each other. And I don't know if it's going to be like, what is it, Captain America Civil War style, or what they've got planned for there, if it's just going to be like a friendly competition thing or what.
Right.
But it wasn't, the initial presentation of it was not as say Endwalker's was.
Yeah.
It just didn't have that same oomph. I feel like I said, it's very pretty, and but they also really, really held back on a lot of details.
They usually do that with the trailer, yeah. Right? This we get
the trailer, the entire keynote. They held back on so many details because they're like, all right, we've got this tiny bit here to give you, and then when we go to London, we're going to give them a tiny little bit, and then when we go to Japan,
Yeah.
So like the entire thing of just making sure they have content to reveal at each of the things. And of course, too, like you said, well, this just isn't ready. He was also, doing the whole, I'm going to show you stuff, and not showing anything, just
right.
being like, here's a picture of 2 characters talking to each other, and nothing else matters.
Even the trailer itself follows that thing, right? We always get like this shorter version, and then we get a somewhat different or added to version in the following FanFests, all culminating with the long form launch trailer, right before the actual launch of the expansion. I agree with you. I thought the music was good. I thought the visuals were good. You can certainly see the graphic overhaul that they're doing. Some characters, particularly like Grahatia, looked almost slightly different. Like I knew who he was, but you were like, oh yeah, well,
yeah,
okay.
I didn't.
Yeah.
It bugged me a little bit on, and Graha was one, and Rayon J was another that I was just like, oof. I'm not sure about that. That doesn't just look like, prettied up or whatever. That looks weird.
Well, when you watch the trailer, I felt like this is all okay. I do like that it has a bit more positive vibe than some of the other ones, because this is kind of like, hey, we're going to go to the new world and have a new adventure. Let's do it. Everything's, more bright and cheery, where all the previous expansions, right, the trailer by, force, because of where the story was going, was always very dark and like the world's coming to an end. Are you going to save it? Because that's where we were in the story. Now they're kind of taking advantage of, hey, let's make this bright, new, and open, because there is no expectation of the world coming to an end tomorrow leading into this. But I do think
it's kind of a summer vacation.
Yeah, I do feel like the trailer lost a little something, both musically, both presentationally, both captivatingly, because there really isn't a hook on this one. We don't know what's going on. Even players that like us for the last 10 years don't really have a clue on what's going to be happening here as we start a whole new story. And I felt like the trailer kind of suffered for that a little bit. As good as it was, I don't think it's one of the better ones.
somebody on the outside who does not play this game, has not followed along with it, whatsoever, coming in and like seeing this, like I don't need a big bad or like direction in which it's going. The trailer I thought was interesting enough that it's like if I had the free time to play this game, which we all know is not the case if you've watched Gaming Gumbo at all, like I don't have the time to play a lot of games right now. I would play this. I would. This does look interesting. That like, if I didn't know this was Final Fantasy, right, going into it, I would have thought at first, based on like the white cloak on the ship, I would have been like, "Is this an Assassin's Creed game?" At the very, very, very beginning, like the first like 10 seconds, like I would have been like, "What the?"
And then even he would have been like, "Oh nope, that's Derplander." Okay.
Yeah. But and then I think it was like 5 seconds or so in when it kicked in and the music started. I went. There was a fraction of a second where I went, "Is that Weird Al?" And I was like, "Oh boy, the music choice is interesting."
Yeah, and I mean, like, they're going to a new area inspired by
we're going to the new world.
So it's just it's one of those things, but it just, like I said, it just didn't have quite the thing. And the other thing you probably have to keep in mind is that at this point in like the cycle, we're in what would naturally be kind of a lull state anyway, but it's like an uber lull state this time because they've extended the amount of time in between each update by at least a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And they're spending more time working on all that back end stuff than actual content, I feel like.
Yeah, the graphics overhaul being a huge part of this.
Yeah, like and undoing spaghetti code for certain things completely, like every update, right? They've completely redone dungeons so that they can like clean them up and also make them single player. Like the vast majority of the game is now single player at this point.
Yeah.
Like you could go through it, almost never interact with anybody. But because of that, then it's like this thing still it falls a little flat because we're already in this state where it's just like there's just nothing really going on.
Yeah, and that's kind of going to get a little worse before it gets better, if it gets better, because and we're going to come back to some other things here that were talked about in the keynote, but let's mesh in some of the stuff that we got from the live letter, right? The next day, where 6.5 is targeting early October, 6.55 targeting mid-January. Of course, there'll be a .51 and .52 in there somewhere as well, but as far as the meat of the content, 6.5 early October and 6.55 mid-January, with DawnTrail, the expansion itself, coming in the summer. Now, summer 2024, of course, is a wide window of a few months there, but really starting to feel those extra 2 weeks compiling up at this point, Q. I don't know about you, and I know some people, this is great for them, it gives them time to run alts the way they want to and stuff like that. I've never been that type of guy. I don't even have all classes maxed. I just don't play the classes I don't want to play. I'll sub my way, you sub yours type deal. So I guess it's great in the I've got time to play other games and I don't feel compelled to have to be in Final Fantasy, which is always good. But even I'm starting to look at it and go, oh, man, okay, the time between these is a little rough. It's a little rough.
Yeah, and like I was doing, like I still am loosely doing the leveling, like getting all my other classes up where they need to be kind of thing. But I'm doing it so lazily because I don't like just going and grinding to level, and I hate doing roulettes. I actually hate anything that involves me actually doing stuff with other people for the most part. So like I'm just going and doing a PvP a day and getting like a half a level or a level per each job that I do it on, and just kind of cycling through them that way. But honestly, if I weren't the person like managing the stuff for my free company, if I weren't tending the garden, if I weren't doing the buffs, I probably wouldn't log on, and I probably would have just canceled my subscription until 7.0 comes out.
Yeah. And I mean, Dom, you don't play itself, but the topic of timing between content updates is one that pervades in every MMO discussion. WoW historically had a full expansion that was, oh my God, I can't believe the game survived because you only did, 2 major patches and there were huge time gaps between it. It's a discussion that transcends just Final Fantasy for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's something where it's like I almost prefer and enjoy short little content updates rather than holding off and waiting for this big patch. I do understand the need for like a big patch to draw more people in, but I do like the little tiny, like if you look at original World of Warcraft, like back in the day when you had like, hey, Mordon is coming out, this one dungeon is coming out, and then like 2 weeks later it's like, here's the Silithus revamp for quests, and it's like they didn't wait and just pile it all up at once. It was just as it was done, they put it in, and there's something kind of like enticing and charming about that sense of thing, and there was a reason to always log on and do something. But I don't know, maybe it's the me of now where, I'm older, I have more responsibilities, and I don't have the time to sit and play. I prefer when games have a bit of a break and a lull in them, because it gives me time to like get away from it, recharge my battery, play other things, and then when something big drops, like it gives me incentive to come back and want to keep playing. Trouble is, if it's too long, maybe it's something you forget about, So
yeah.
I think we just need to find a better balance of that kind of stuff.
That's always the danger is if it goes too long, then it's out of your daily or weekly pattern to the point that you just kind of go, oh, I really don't want to then. I'm going to have to do too much stuff to catch up. And you get caught in that. They never come back. Other items of note, of course, new jobs. Tons of speculation going on what those new jobs could be. Melee DPS and range magic DPS. As always, if you watch FanFests historically and have been playing the game for a while, you know that Yoshi P's attire usually enters the discussion on what those new jobs were. And if you missed it, he was wearing a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle shirt. So speculation has gone from turtles are green, it's a green mage, all the way to the turtles have Renaissance painter names, so it's Pictomancer, and everything in between. Q, got any guesses for the jobs or any wish lists for these two spots for yourself? I know you hate casters in general. So
I do hate casters in general. I pretty much stick to the ranged classes, like, physical ranged anyway. So,
she's like, I don't care about either job.
Yeah, like I do play Dragoon, but I only use Dragoon in PvP. So,
fair enough. Also, level cap of 100, and big announcement at the end of the keynote when Phil Spencer was welcomed to the stage. Excuse me, by Yoshi P. Anybody that's been following the game long enough knows as soon as he was introduced, you knew what they were there to announce. Final Fantasy XIV will make its way to Xbox consoles finally after about 10 years since version 1. And that'll happen in the spring, so just ahead of DawnTrail. So you'll have some time to catch up. We welcome all of our Xbox friends that haven't played anywhere and they've been waiting for this day. Congratulations. We're happy to have you. Welcome to Final Fantasy XIV. Tons of other great announcements. Q did an article on the site recapping both the keynote and the live letter independently, so 2 different posts. You don't have to surf through all of the information, giving you the full recap on the site. The other fest this week, Dom, a little more up your alley, Path of Exile with ExileCon. I know you've been partaking of the Diablo 4, and ARPGs in general are a very Dom favorite. I know you've dabbled in Path of Exile. Big announcements here included Path of Exile 2, which was originally going to be part of PoE's launcher, has grown to be a standalone game, apparently.
Yeah, it's going to be in its own client now. That was interesting to me, because it's like, when you have like such a big change like that, it's a little more exciting, because it's like you thought it was one thing and then it's like it grew into something else. Like it looks like a complete like engine overhaul, like everything. It's not even just like what we thought it was. So, but D4 bad.
D4 bad. Yeah, what was going on over there? Like again, it's one that I wanted to buy and wanted to play, but
Did you
I can't
see
spend
that?
money. But I heard season 1 has been like such an absolute cluster that WoW is now hiring somebody else to manage seasonal content delivery. Not WoW, Blizzard.
Yeah. Did you see that though when they were talking about it and they're all sitting there in D4 bad?
Yeah.
That's just like kicking a man when he's down. You know what I mean? Like I don't know about all that, but it was funny nonetheless.
Closed beta date was announced. Right around the corner, gang. June 7th, 2024. It's just right around the corner. Just a full year away. And when it arrives, Path of Exile 2 going to be adding instant weapon and skill changing. I think that's huge. That's huge. And we've got all kinds of different gameplay trailers and walkthrough videos. And we got everything. Everything. A ton. There's how many are? 1, 2, 3. Good Lord. Q linked 5 videos in this ExileCon wrap-up. Trailers through Act 3 gameplay walkthroughs, some Path of Exile news, some Path of Exile 2 news, the full live stream both on day 1, day 2. It's all there. Q, are you I feel like we've had this conversation that you've like dabbled in PoE once or twice, but that was it.
No. I've played it. There have been periods where I've played it extensively. It's been a while, but there have been periods where like it was the game I was playing.
So are you excited for the sequel?
Well, now it comes down to more than anything for me on a lot of stuff, hard drive space, since I'm on my laptop. So that determines more than anything what I may or may not be playing, unless the game is on GeForce Now. But
Yeah. You're a big GeForce Now proponent. You love that.
I mean, it makes things easier for me, so.
And Dom, I know you're going to be in this. I know you're going to be in PoE2.
Yeah, I have to. I still haven't finished Diablo 4, but
well, D4 bad, I hear.
D4 bad.
D4.
So I got really busy or whatever, and I was trying to play Diablo 4 with a friend, and the two of us were trying to like only play these characters and not get ahead of each other. And it didn't work. So we actually not long ago, we just sat down and had a conversation. It was like, we're just going to go off and do it on our own in our own free time. And we're going to get through it because it's never going to happen otherwise.
You're like,
so,
look, I feel like our necromancer and our berserker should break up.
How did you know what we were playing?
I feel like we should
literally
break up.
That's what it was.
My necro wants to see other demons. You're holding me back. That never works. How many? Raise your hand in chat if you've tried to play a multiplayer game, an MMORPG, whatever, with a friend, and these are the characters. We'll only play these when we're together. And raise your hand if you actually got from 0 to max level with your friend with that character. One of you has always screwed it up. Don't put your hand up, Flynn. You never got to max level. Get the hell out of here. I will tell you. Hey, put your hand back down. That's what I thought. Yeah. Raise your hand if you got to max level with that friend. I will tell you how bad this is. My wife and I have tried to do that at least 6 different times. And every single time she comes home at some point,
that's wise.
She gets on and she's like, "What? How are you 43?" And I was like, "Oh, I just did some dailies." She's like, 21. Like, all the time. You got the 15 in WoW. That's the record.
That's impressive.
That's the record. We made
so.
It. We made
so that's what alts are for. How about this? I have 5 alts in Diablo that are all caught up to my main.
It never works.
Yeah.
Ever. We're only going to play these when the other one's on. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah, all right. Okay. Good luck. Really? Have you guys tried to watch a series on Netflix together where one of you doesn't sneak an episode in on the other one?
I'm 7 episodes into Twisted Metal with a group of people that have not gone further yet, so I'm actually kind of impressed.
No, not gone farther that you know of.
No. They even admit, they're like, "Oh, I was really close. I was really close the other night, but I held off. I held back." I was like, "Okay, cool." So no, we're all on the same page with that one.
Yeah. Let us know what you think of 14's FanFest. There were some ups and downs and some uglies there as far as weather and lines and ADA accommodations and just general management. Hopefully they will learn from it, and we go more into those on the Relic Grind over on Ready Check Radio if you want to go watch that. Other fun news this week, and I say fun in a very sarcastic manner, if you can't tell. So first up, a dev over at Dark and Darker, that company, that game being from Iron Mace being sued by NCSoft, both criminally in Korea and civilly here in the United States over alleged stealing of assets, storing them on a private server outside of the company, which was authorized for a brief period of time, then not authorized, but was continued to happen. We've covered all of that before. If you need a recap to catch you up, head over to mmobomb.com and just search Dark and Darker in the news archives. Click on this article and click on Dark and Darker in the bottom in the key, and you'll get all of it. But Korean officials this past week actually requested an arrest warrant now for lead developer Junhin Choi over at Iron Mace Studios as these events unfold. They are seeking for his arrest. Now, shortly after, within 24 hours, courts rejected that request. So he was not actually arrested. They issued one, then dismissed the warrant. And of course, a warrant doesn't mean you're guilty or not guilty. It just means that the authorities have enough evidence. They want to bring you in and sort some shit out. But courts actually rejected it. So they don't think he's a threat to destroy further evidence or anything. So there was no reason for him to be under arrest. But this just continues to get worse and worse, I feel, Dom, for Iron Mace at this point.
Yeah, this game had me so hopeful because so I didn't get a chance to play it in the beta. I missed it. The two big weekends that they did it, I was away for one of them, and I opted in and didn't get in for the second one. But and I think they had a third one that was on their Discord, but I wasn't in their Discord, and I didn't even realize at the time. But a lot of my friends and stuff that have been playing it, I was watching them and stuff on stream. I was very, very excited because I'm a big fan of Hunt Showdown, and this is kind of like in that realm mixed in with D&D kind of feel. I was very excited for it, and all of this stuff that has been going on, it hurts.
Yeah,
it hurts so
and initially
much.
It was easy to take as, NCSoft busting up on a smaller company, but then as more details roll out, you're like,
yeah.
NCSoft probably in the right here.
You want to sit there and defend them because the game is actually good. It's fun. Everybody, it's one of those things where everybody was playing it, and then when it went on break, it was people were like, "Oh my god, I don't know what to do with my life right now. The game is gone." And I've heard this from multiple friends that have played it, and they're just sitting there counting down the days to the next beta, and then all this stuff came out, and everybody's like, No, they didn't do all this. No, it's getting blown out of proportion. And now as more and more comes out, it's just this is not looking good. Very very upsetting because I want this game to be good.
Yep. Looking a little grim, but I mean at least they weren't arrested, Q. They were almost arrested. They were under threat of arrest.
Almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades.
And horseshoes
small
and
tactical needs.
And lemonade or something. I don't know. Horseshoes and lemonade. Hey, when I say the name of the game Dauntless, Q, what immediately comes to your mind? Just first thing about the game that comes to your mind when I say Dauntless.
Big critters.
Yeah, there you go. Big monsters. Cool. What's the second thing you think of, Dom, when I say Dauntless, but you're not allowed to say monsters or behemoths?
Large creatures.
No, weapons, right? The weapons. Yeah. So Dauntless went ahead and posted a huge State of Dauntless post. And anybody that does what we do for a living, immediately, when you post a state of, we immediately assume it's a closure. And I know multiple companies have been running a state of X, a state of Y, weekly or monthly for years, but it's just a switch in there for us. But so we go and read it just to make sure, we don't post it. So the Dauntless team put up a state of Dauntless and talked about the road ahead and talked about their team growing and working for their next major update, the Shattered Isles, which was a name just recently used for an expansion somewhere else, like literally 2 days ago. That's not coming until the summer of 2024. And that's going to hold a new permanent progression system, some combat updates, including the ability to swap weapons during combat. Remember, weapons and the monsters are basically the key to this game. Improved behemoth behavior and enhanced core gameplay. And what does this mean for you? If you're new to Dauntless or a veteran slayer with years of experience, you'll continue to have plenty of events, according to the team. New Gauntlet seasons and rewards, seasonal challenges, seasonal events, bonus weekend updates, reward cache updates, weekly trials rotations, and weekly heroic escalation rotations. And while that list sounds like 7 items, it's hard not to look at that list, and say, so exactly what we're getting now.
Mm-hmm.
We're just seasonal events, seasonal challenges, a rotation of weekend events, and stuff like that. And Dauntless has kind of been quiet lately on the update front as far as big updates, too. And I got to say, in my book, if I'm a Dauntless player and you say you're going to give me a big update, sweet. More monsters, new weapons. Like, that's what the game is. Like, that's what it is.
And you got to love when in their keynotes for, like, what's coming, that you always got to include bug fixes and balance.
Oh, yeah, of course. Of course. Got to. And I thought, well, maybe Dauntless players, because I'm very casual in Dauntless, so maybe, like, if that's your game, maybe weapon swapping is a huge deal to you. So, Q, I take to the Twitter feed, the old, the X feed. And
No, we're not calling it that.
No. I mean, notice that the art is still the Twitter birdie. And I'm going to see... maybe weapon swapping was more important. I'm just going to read you a couple of these. Just a couple of responses, randomly selected. I haven't even copied these ahead of time. Just scrolling through it right now on their post. Shadestep says, weapons and monsters are all anyone cares about. They're what players interact with 90% of the time. People don't come back because of a new UI or a progression system. I'm glad to see the community monsters coming after 2 years, but there has to be 1 or 2 new weapons. Minecraft Steve Appreciator Zisk says, who asked? Weapon swapping? I mean, it looks fun, but really, who asked for this? This isn't as impressive as I hoped. I'm sorry. And I'm just going to scroll down just so I'm not reading the top 2 or 3. So no new behemoths or weapons for a full year. Great way of killing off your game. Having new trials won't keep people playing. Man, I love covering game launches. While I was never checking on community, but that's an impressive amount of whining and negativity in the replies. Is this normal? I'm glad you're actually still developing the game. And weapon switches obviously open up new space for different kinds of weapons. Can't wait for the next news. So somebody at least lukewarm on those. And then other people saying that weapon swapping is going to be a bit OP for veterans. But generally speaking, yeah, not exactly being well received here, Dom. From a game that I hate to say it because I like Dauntless, I like Phoenix Labs, and I like the people who are there, but you'd be forgiven if you thought this game was closed already.
Yeah. Oh, man. This does not look good.
2024, by the way, mid-2024.
Yeah, it's... I don't know. It's upsetting. People do not sound happy about this at all.
Q wants weapon swapping. That's all she wants. I blame Q.
Is that true, Q? Is that true?
What?
Yeah, chat saying, I honestly, recently, I haven't seen an update email from Dauntless in a bit. You're telling me. Like, Dauntless has always been one of those games that, like, hits us with every press bit at least 48 hours before it comes out. And they're like, here, cover it. We'd love you to cover it. Embargo for Friday. And we're like, no problem. It's been a while, bro. It's
this
been
is like
a while.
saying, hey, we're going to come out with a
via
new...
Twitter when I assigned it to be written. It wasn't because they sent it to us.
This is like saying, hey, we're gonna, make a new Monster Hunter game, and guys, guess what? There's gonna be new monsters in it.
Yeah, right. Hey, next year I'm going to give you an expansion to Monster Hunter that includes no monsters. No new monsters, no new weapons. Look forward to it a year from now. Not looking good.
No.
I love this next one in WTF news. Q. Jected Rivals. If you remember, we streamed this the day it came out or went into early access or whatever, and it's like a compilation different races game. Not exactly what we kind of compared it to racing in the style of Riders Republic, but it didn't have that open world aspect that Riders Republic did, and kind of thought maybe this is going to be a little bit more niche. It is. So much so that it's getting its own offline mode, which that's cool because it was online only, right? So now players can set up your own games using a custom mode for yourselves and your friends. You no longer have to deal with long queue wait times or anything like that. You can just choose to play with just your friends if you want to. There might be a reason for those long queue times.
Yeah. How many players are active in the game?
Right now on Steam, 0.
When we wrote it, when we wrote the article, 6.
Yeah, its 24-hour peak on Steam, 4. Its all-time peak 3 months ago, 206. If a game ever needed the ability to have an offline mode, it is absolutely this game.
And it's an 18-player game.
Yeah, it's an 18-player game.
Does it need an offline mode? Can't you just get 18 friends and queue up at the same time and all get into the same game?
I love how they sell it, though, Q. Because, I sent the news to Q, and she's like, okay, this is kind of lame. And I'm like, no, here, spice it up a little bit. And I sent her the Steam charts. And she was like, oh, okay, yeah.
So for clarity, actually, you sent both of them to me at the same time.
Oh, did I really?
I think in your head, you just assumed that I would just be like, really?
Yeah.
And you were just like, here for extra stuff.
Here's some oomph on the story. Yeah. So great. You and your friends can go play a game nobody else wants to play.
I mean, if you can only get 6 people into it at one time anyway, do you really think somebody's just going to go round up 17 other people to...
Yeah, exactly. Last up today before we head over to the weekly bombs, Palia been a big one this week as they've finished a previous round of testing and then have just kicked off another round of testing, but they also released in between, right before this latest round of testing, Q, a director's letter talking about changes and future stuff. What's going on in the cozy MMO world of Palia right now?
Well, I mean, it was doing some stress testing, right? That's what the previous 2 tests were, and now we're in closed beta, which they're just kind of letting people in every so often throughout the day once they got past their hotfix thing the other day. But I mean, they put up a director's letter, and it's like the first one, so a lot of it was the whole, hey, here's been our journey kind of thing that they tend to do, and honestly still tend to do when you're like 10 years into a game and whatever. But it's basically like it's most of the stuff that you would expect them to say. So they're going to as they go along, add themed events and new quests and storylines and decorations and crops and recipes, because this is not a combat-based game. So it's all those kinds of things. And it's great. They said that on the tech end that, there's the Nintendo Switch release that they're planning on coming, and they're planning on adding controller support and quality of life improvements, which, is another standard thing to kind of add to games, quality of life. So
bug fixes.
Yeah, that general kind of stuff.
You gotta have bug fixes listed. Tori the Chicken, by the way, Dom, saying can't you get 18 friends sounded a lot like Blizzard saying you have phones, don't you?
Well, I just more meant you didn't need the offline mode, because if you get 18 friends together, and you
You'd
queue
be
up,
the
you're
only
going to
ones
be in the
queuing up.
same game. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
My
you didn't need an offline mode.
my suspicion is for the offline mode, there's probably not as many people required for a match.
Well, you can
since-
queue up with as many as you want in a custom. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's not quite the same thing.
Palia, by the way, has been one of those ones that I'm like, I don't think I personally would play this a lot, but it is super cute and interesting. I certainly will check it out. I have not been part of any of their testing. The NDA has fallen, Q. Were you able to do some? I know you were in testing, but you also had some issues with the client, like some other people had. Have you been in there at all?
Yeah, actually, Justin and I went in and played last night because he got into the closed beta as well. Like I said, they're just kind of rolling it out even
Yeah.
throughout the closed beta. They're just still rolling out invites, and I think it's like every 4 hours or something they send out another one. But initially, I had because I was in the press. They given me press access, and every time I went to log into it, as you entered the world and you started running around, whenever you would turn your camera, everything would just stop for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it was really frustrating. And I'm sitting here playing with all the settings going, okay, is this something my computer is doing or whatever? But then when Justin got into it yesterday and I had been telling him about that, he's like, yeah, it's doing it for me too. So it must be something to do with the game itself and not your computer or whatever. I was like, okay, well, get in and try it. And as you went along, once you got out of that initial area and stuff, it pretty much just kind of chilled out on that.
Oh, cool.
So it was literally like, I don't know if it's just like trying to load the entire world or if it's because it's an area that all these people are dumping into or what the deal is. But that initial getting from where you come into the game to the village is a little weird. Like in that kind of like stutteriness.
Is it
But then
fun? Like, I'm not a real cozy, like, I'm not an Animal Crossing guy. Like, I can appreciate the appeal of it, but it's just not, like, I don't want to go farm peaches and shit, all that.
Okay, but yeah, so that's an obvious difference between your play style and mine, right? Because
Yeah.
like I am an Animal Crossing person or Harvestella, or although Harvestella had the combat and stuff to go with it.
Harvestella was very fun to watch. I watched.
Yeah, it's a really good story and everything else. It was a really perfect combination of these two styles of games. But with this, like, it does have an interesting kind of like little mystery story because the idea is you play a human, right? And the world that you're being dumped into is a world that humans used to exist in like 1,000 years ago, and then something just happened and they're all gone. So the existing race is a bunch of purple elves. And they're all like, when you show up, they're very excited about it because they're like, oh my God, like humans have been appearing, but you're the first one to kind of step in out of a portal or whatever. So they're, they're like, yeah, there's all these ruins laying around that were ruins that belong to humans. And you're kind of having to, solve puzzles and stuff like that there. And obviously there's the farming and the gathering and the crafting and the selling and like all of that stuff as well. There's no combat as far as I can see, and I don't think that they're planning on adding it, but there is hunting. Like you're handed a bow and an arrow and you go out and you hunt. I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically a deer and like a big beaver looking thing and stuff like that. So like you're doing like all of those kinds of things. And we tried the using the friends list, adding on the joining each other in a party. It puts you in separate, like you're not necessarily in the same server or same instance, but it's really easy for you to just go to this little board and say swap over to where my friends at and do stuff together. And you can even harvest together, because I was like standing there and I was harvesting trees in Justin's area, like by his house.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, is this taking it away, right? Or what? And he's like, yeah, the trees are disappearing, and so we both tried at the same time. And what it does is two or more of you working together to chop down a tree or break up a rock or whatever it is, makes it go faster and everybody gets the loot.
Oh, okay.
kind of deal. But you both have to hit it.
Right.
Otherwise, it's just whichever one of you is hitting it, they're going to get the loot, and it's done. So, I mean, and the other thing it does is you can set your friends to modify your property. Like, but we were looking at it really closely. It's not like you can have somebody on your friends list and be like, okay, well, you can just do some of the building. They can't do that. But you could come into your house and have your furniture moved all around, right? Like that kind of a deal.
Oh man.
Dom, is this your type of game?
So, that's a loaded question.
I mean, it has huge traction right now across social media.
Right. So, I would say that this is typically not my kind of game. However, as I've gotten less and less time to do things, or I have short bursts of time, I find games like Dinkum and stuff that plays what I'm assuming is very similar to this. I find them a little more appealing because it's something I could just jump in and jump out of and not really have to worry, especially this because there's no combat. So it's something where it's like if I'm, because, I work from home. So it's something like if I have like an hour, half an hour, 20 minutes to just load up something and play, I don't have to worry about like, oh, something came up. I have to go hide in a bush and hope no one comes along and kills me, like when I'm playing Hunt Showdown or, whatever. And it's just, so these kind of games have been a little more appealing to me because I can literally just throw it on another monitor or shrink it, minimize it, go do what I want and not worry about anything. But if you asked me this same question like 3 years ago, I would say, no, you'd never catch me playing a game like this.
Certainly one to keep our eye on. Open beta kicks off in like 6 days. So if you don't have a closed beta key or you don't get one as they continue to pass them out, don't worry. You'll be able to hop in next week on August 10th. Let's slide over and do the bombs. Dom, you're up first. What do you got?
Hold on. I am so lost on these notes.
Your weekly bomb. Your dub bomb for something good, A bomb for something, but your personal one.
I forgot to fill it out. So
I'm like, how can you be lost on the only thing you were asked to bring to the show?
No, Dom, don't feel bad. I never fill it out.
No, she never does.
No, it's fine. So I guess my bomb, I mentioned it earlier. My bomb was D4 bad.
D4 bad. Go ahead, Q.
I'm gonna give the bomb to Palia because it does seem like it's going to be a fun way to spend some time, and I'm going to give a what the fuck bomb to Neil Gaiman just because Neil Gaiman.
I'm gonna give a dub bomb to Hawked, Hawked. I generally when we first saw this and we brought it to the cast, I was like, this does intrigue me a little bit because of the puzzle solving aspect of it and the PvEVP portion of it, and it's not a battle royale. I did the first look. It's up. Open beta started yesterday. It runs for 2 weeks. Check out the first look video and then go ahead and download it if you want to check it out. I'm going to be streaming it today after the podcast, so make sure you join us live when you can so that we can hang out for the stream after the show. I very much am enjoying this, and I hope it doesn't get screwed up with monetization. I feel like it won't. I feel like it's going to follow very predictable models there. So I'm going to give it a dub bomb. Very enjoyable. We'll see its longevity. That's the other concern with it. So we'll play it today and make a determination. Also, I want to give an A bomb to Dead by Daylight if in their Alien crossover, I cannot play as Survivor Ripley. That just seems dumb if Ripley is not made a survivor in the game. But a dub bomb to having an Alien crossover. That's pretty awesome.
I mean, do you think they really wouldn't?
I guess it would depend on licensing, right? Like, because there's a likeness involved there, not just an IP license involved to use like the xenomorphs.
Didn't they just get Nick Cage though?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
they did.
speaking of that, like I thought it would have been a really cool concept. So when Nick Cage came in, bring him in, as a survivor, and then he slowly goes mad over time and becomes one of the
He becomes wild in Nick
killers.
Cage.
He
Yeah,
could just play both. He's Nick Cage.
Yeah.
The range is
Just-
the range is there. You're fine.
just
The
slowly
range, you
start
mean Nick
shifting the
Cage
patch.
versus wilding Nick Cage. Like,
Right.
that's it. He literally just swings from one to the other. There is no
Yeah.
in between.
Yeah.
From the viewers on YouTube on mmobomb.com and in chat, make sure, by the way, you leave your weekly bomb and question of the week answers below in the comments, an important part of the show. Dom bringing them has no excuse, and neither do you. Go ahead and throw them in there, please. Terminus Tataros says, A-Bomb, I did not notice this last time, so I make this comment. Since when did YouTube change my name from Yamikami to Undead Rogue 99? I mean, this second name is something I did type in at some point. Then it should not be the display name. Yeah, I knew it was you because the profile icon had stayed the same, but I didn't want to assume, so I actually used the name that was there, that was displaying. But yeah, that was a few months ago, friend. That was a few months ago. You're a little late on that one. A little late. Go ahead, Dom. Take the next one.
Baron Vagabond, the bomb to Baldur's Gate 3, really good and no in-game purchases.
I feel like that's one we're gonna hear a bit. I know a bunch of other people put it in chat, and I tried not to duplicate bombs, but it is a common one this week. Go ahead, Q.
Tori the Chicken, to bomb to Insomniac for giving me Ratchet and Clank without needing to buy a PS5.
Yeah, PC version. Yay.
Mhm.
Way to go, Sony. Driznet says, to bomb for V Rising, just making it back to it from all the release dates and the updates, and they've added a ton of fun content. Yeah, they have. We've been covering it on the site, and they certainly have. Hey, Castles, 2 floors now. Who knew? Crazy.
Yeah, I actually just got back into V Rising for a little bit before Hunt Showdown had their event, and now all my free time that I have goes to the Hunt event, and then I'll make my way back to V Rising when that ends. But Takal says, the bomb to getting a bonus at work. Love working for the feds. 875 extra bucks for doing my regular 9 to 5.
Gotta love when bonuses are just for showing up. Participation award bonuses. I'll take it. Go ahead, Q.
Stojanowski, the bomb to me turning 35 today.
Happy birthday, Stojan.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Question of the week last week. What is the single biggest draw for you to MMOs or MMORPGs? What's your favorite feature and maybe your least favorite feature? Johnny Tsunami says, side note, I was the guy who broke your site on last week's question of the week. I think I got my display name right now, though. Yeah, Johnny. So I went in and looked, and I replied to you on the site. You actually do have those characters in the Johnny Tsunami name. If I go and delete those, you're not going to be able to sign in. So I know you have those extra characters there. If you don't want those there, you just want to be Johnny Tsunami, you got to go in and edit your name. Anyway, Johnny says, question of the week, the best draw in an MMORPG? You ready for this revelation? It's a good community, for sure. You could be playing an MMO with a ton of flaws, but if you manage to find a community that can keep your interest, well then, that just may keep you coming back to the game and forming some fond memories along the way. Hard to disagree there. Hard to disagree. Go ahead, Dom. Oh, and happy birthday to Dom, too.
Apparently he didn't want that.
Baron put it in chat. It's not his birthday. Thovarisk.
I can't pronounce it.
It's your birthday.
For the record. Question, man. I wish I knew. Sometimes the combat, Guild Wars 2. Sometimes the story, Final Fantasy 14. But honestly, is trying to get that feeling of wonder. I just got the first time I played Final Fantasy 11. I guess the community I got in WoW. I don't know, man. I'm old.
Yeah,
that is a mood.
if you're trying to chase that feeling of wonder, that's gone, bro. That's gone, bro. You're gonna be chasing it forever. Trust me. And if you find it, please let me know. Go ahead, Q.
Misfit Rain. Battle Pass, Undead Ninja 99. You were safe to return to your normal life. I've just made those pitchforks do a 180. Also expansions, but probably most of all new classes.
Doesn't like battle passes, wants the expansions and classes, and yeah,
No. I think what was being said here was jokingly, battle pass is one of the things that bring you in, so that
well, yeah, because that was
you
my
guys were after.
yeah.
Yeah.
Terminus Totaro says, so I changed my name in the meantime. Again, this is now Yamikami again. Could not get Yamikami as unique name since some imposter took it. Anyway, question of the week time. So I started with WoW at a time where multiplayer was like Counter-Strike or Warcraft 3, where you would join a lobby, start a game, play the game, and when finished, all you could really do was play another. At that time, MMOs was something unique. You had a persistent world, a persistent character, and you can actually get to know people through the game instead of just sitting in a lobby with them, then playing for like 10 to 30 minutes with them, and then never seeing them again. The idea of an MMO was quite novel at the time, and I guess I'm looking for that exact feeling of camaraderie that I had felt back in the day. However, my problem is that I have become way more reclusive in my gaming habits. Ironic, since in real life I was reclusive at the time and now have opened up more. The sad part is I'm looking for something that I have a hard time finding, but it's not always the game's fault. It's my own. I'm the one who's playing alone, who is not actively joining the guild, who is not hanging out in Discord with the bros, yet I'm still longing for the feeling of those old days. Send help. It is weird, right? Because like I gotta, that hit me. That one hit me because I was like, yeah, I kind of do the same. I'm like, oh, I want that feeling of Final Fantasy XI back in the day, and World of Warcraft the first, and then I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to interact with any of you assholes. Like I don't want to do that anymore.
Well, you were forced to forced to interact with people back in the day because there was no group finders, right?
Yep.
When group finders came in, it destroyed that whole need to be social and need to have like a consistent group of people. Now it's just like, whatever. I don't have to deal with anybody. Just throw me in. It'll pair me up with a couple random people. I don't have to worry too much because I'm never going to see them again.
Yep. Go ahead with the next one, Dom.
Disposalist says the clue is in the genre name. The game should be multiplayer based, groups and co-op PvE, not just shared soloing. They should stop making them near 100% soloable. Soloing should be possible, but difficult because it shouldn't be the balancing or designing ideal.
Yeah, that's a bit of a conflicting opinion with a lot of MMO design today, where it's even Final Fantasy XIV we talked about earlier, Q. Now the expansion, Stormblood becoming part of the free trial, and basically all the dungeons now being trustable with the duty system finder. So
I think the problem that you run into is, especially with an aging player base.
Yeah.
If they're not more soloable, what you get is people just electing to not play the game, and suddenly your MMO ends up losing the massively part.
Yep. Go ahead and finish it off.
Scabby knees. I think that since we as humans are social animals, the core of what makes MMOs appealing is their social aspect. Part of what made survival games so compelling initially was stumbling across another person and not knowing what to expect. Whether the two of you engage in combat or join forces to discover the game world together, there was no telling the unique interactions and experiences that could take place before one or both of you inevitably die. At least before shoot on sight became the customary greeting. While comparatively the typical MMO structure isn't as conducive to encounters as unique, they allow for longer-term interactions between players, especially when, as Mike prefers, PvE is the focus. The appeal may not necessarily come directly from being able to interact with any given stranger, but more from being able to see other people and know that the potential for genuine connections exist, however transient they may be.
Scabby knees dumping some philosophy on us. Oof. Nice. Question of the week this week. I'm going to ask you the age-old debate. Play Nightingale just released info that they have added third-person camera. And now I know, all of a sudden, Q might actually be interested in that game now. Because she thought, hey, this looks cool, but no. First person, no. They have added third person. Huge accessibility benefits there for people that need that type of accessibility. And then huge just preference ability opened up there. So, the age-old debate question of the week, first person or third person view, which is better and why? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget your weekly bombs, dub bomb for something good, a bomb for something bad in the world of gaming or just life in general. Until next week, Q, where can everybody find you?
I mean, do you really want to? On Twitter at Quinlan.
She means X. Dom.
No, I do not.
The whole reason they changed the name is so when people say they left Twitter, he's like, "What's that?" You can find me down below over here at Exista.
I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me right there at magicman1, but more importantly, follow at MMOBomb so that you'll know every time we go live with a stream, a podcast, post a giveaway, a first look video, news, interviews, and more. Stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.